Please give him a big hand, everyone. Now, our topic today is really about catalyzing regional transformation, the IIB playbook for smart, sustainable growth. Now, what we're going to do is really give you an overview and also then insights into what's really happening on the ground and the opportunities. Now, for a start, Rajanaj, give us an overview of Iskandar Investment Berhad and what you do.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this Powerhouse session. So allow me to start by introducing Iskandar Investment Berhad. We are a strategic investment holding company that focuses on the catalytic and strategic development of Iskandar Malaysia, or now known as JSSEZ Flagship Zone B, which is Iskandar Puteri, that spans across the two causeways actually, from Woodlands to Tuas. We are owned by, we are private, so we are owned by Khazanah, EPF and KPRJ, and we focus on building the socio-economic agenda and also creating value for our partners and shareholders in our developments. So primarily IIB, we focus on 5 things. So the first one is property development and real estate. So we have land bank spanning across 6,680 acres, and as we stand now, it has already been activated by partnerships. This is our partnership with Sunway. We also have partnerships with other developers as well. We focus on creating value and building in some key gaps in order to spruce up the area and vibrancy. When we conduct our property development, we are bound by our strategic pillars, which are to populate the area, to attract investments, and to reinvigorate the commercial attractiveness. Second, we also look at asset management and investments, where we have active JVs and buildings to generate recurring income, and also some sub industries from that is our ecosystem building, our economic, social and facilitation pillars, as well as our ESG and education pillars, which are also deemed crucial. And then also for my role in corporate strategy is basically to oversee and be the driver of Iskandar Investment Berhad to ensure that we generate sustainable recurring income for our shareholders, and also to uplift the commercial attractiveness for domestic and international investors within our area. Also, I look into crafting investment policies, joint ventures, and also crafting business proposals that can generate a win-win outcome for potential partners as well as existing partners. Currently, we're not just building for speculation. We're riding on the wave of JSSEZ to build for people and for future generations to come. So that's our modus operandi right now, Brian.
Okay, and I think this is a very important question around, and he's just drop that in a little bit. They're building for long-term growth, sustainable growth, and not speculation. Now, in order to give you some insights then, I'm going to ask Rajanaj to give us a history lesson really on the whole Iskandar area. JSSEZ is not new. Johor Bahru has always been seen as the Shenzhen of Singapore, but it's gone through a few iterations. Walk us through a history lesson then till today. What's happened in the past?
Okay, sure. I'll be glad to basically, if I were to look back since the generation of the economic corridor here called Iskandar Malaysia, I think it was divided into a few phases, I would say. Bouncing off the earlier panel session from Datuk Izam and Datuk Nur Azam, the corridor was started by our late Prime Minister Tun Abdullah Badawi, with the focus of making Johor the southern powerhouse, I would say, economic corridor to leverage on Singapore's growth, as well as leveraging on the existing infrastructure and talent that is in Johor. So if I were to divide it into a few phases, I think between 2006 to 2011, it was rather the catalytic years. So it was more of like invest public capital to see where we are at, to generate some partnerships, to build the foundations. So we're talking about infrastructure, ports, roads, access points.
And I want to
Yeah.
stop you here. So just to give a little background,
Correct.
I'm originally from Johor, but I've not lived here for about 30 years except for 1 year. And I remember visiting Johor in 2006 to UEM's launch project in Horizon Hills. It was entirely red earth. And they were launching the first double-story terrace houses for 288,000 ringgit. So it's about, I think, a third of the price that it is today.
How long was that?
That was 2006. So there was just a little showroom and 2 houses. So all of this didn't exist at that time.
That's an interesting point, Brian. So you were, I would say, one of the early movers of this Iskandar Malaysia Corridor program, yeah? So I hope you bought that 288,000 house.
Unfortunately,
You'll be
I
a millionaire
didn't.
by now.
So this is also, that's where, for me, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. In that early stage of Iskandar, 2000, as he said, 2006 to 2011, a lot of infrastructure was built because this is all plantation land. And it takes time to build something like this. And then so you can continue because we also have problems along the way.
Okay, no problem. And that's a great point you brought up, Brian, because I think we have some real estate investors here as well. I think we can all agree that if you do a mistake in real estate, to correct that mistake, you'll take a minimum of 10 years. So it's important to plan carefully to make sure it's demand driven, curate it towards what kind of community that you want to build. Okay, so bouncing off my earlier point, so 2006 to 2011 were the foundational years. 2011 to 2017 is where we start to see this infra start to unlock new places such as Horizon Hills, Putri Harbour, Port of Tanjung Pelepas and others. So this can enable investors to come in, whether it's domestic or foreign. So investors start to become aware of the area and start to build for, growth. But the growth at that time, because the market was fairly new, was built for speculation, you see. So build. So it created some meaningful and good JVs and partnerships internationally and domestically. And
Rajat, I want to stop you here and I want to explain a little bit, again, history lesson, what actually happened in terms of speculation. So in this area and in Malaysia, for those of you in the real estate, they had something called developer interest-bearing schemes. So the banks and the developers were basically subsidizing interest. And so a lot of speculation happened, not only among domestic real estate investors like you and me, but also foreign investors from Singapore, from China, and so forth. And they came in. Too many units were built in a very short period of time, unprecedented. So we had, for example, a developer from China that built 6,000 units at one go in one area. That's never happened before. And so the market then got overheated, and unfortunately, if you don't have demand, then basically prices fall. And then after that, subsequently, it's harder for developers to sell. So this is some of the things where I hear from the key stakeholders this time, where everyone is thinking about, and that's the title of this topic as well. It's about smart, sustainable growth. So Rajanet, go ahead.
okay, so without beating around the bush, right? So yes, you're right, Brian. I think there was a phase where developers we built because of that spillover from Singapore and international markets. So it became a speculation market where I remember at one time a house for 800,000 was sold by cash, or it was like in demand, totally in demand. So that creates a parity where, you know, local average Malaysians just can't afford to purchase, and the people who are buying all these properties are merely investors. So you create a glut where rentals are high and it becomes non-livable. Okay, those are some of the lessons that we as a master planner adhere to, because to make a city vibrant, it has to be livable, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
But Rajanath, one of the things that actually was very good, that worked quite well, if I remember correctly, was the first big relocation of Singapore SMEs and logistics and stuff into Johor. Can you kind of give us some insight into that?
So within our area, the Medini CBD area, spanning across 2,200 acres approximately, we have been working closely with agencies from Singapore such as EDB, mainly ESG Singapore, who look at the livelihoods of the SMEs in Singapore. It has gotten to a point where the cost to operate in Singapore is unsustainable, and in order for SMEs to thrive, the P&L has to be healthy, because they still need to generate income and survive on a year-to-year basis. So that's where we come in. We don't want to compete, but we want to more of complement. We understand the need for SMEs to grow, because we all want to create the next big unicorn, the next big Grab or something like that, right? So in our company, our ecosystem building team, led by my colleague Maidiana, work tirelessly to provide this pre and post facilitation for Singapore SMEs to come and establish their base here, but maintain the HQ in Singapore. Because at the end of the day, to attract international capital, we understand that Singapore is still the hub in the region. So we are providing an alternative to all these Singapore SMEs to have a cost-efficient solution in order to sustain their operations and make sure they grow at a great rate to achieve, hopefully, that unicorn status one day.
Now, one of the things I want to maybe share some examples is really, so besides BizTech Asia, I run an executive search business for the last, in fact in August it'll be 25 years. I'm going to give you two examples of how companies have come in and invested in Johor, I think around the 2015 to 2017. One is the suppliers of McDonald's. So I think if you're a Singaporean here, your buns in every McDonald's in Singapore are all made in Johor Bahru. They are delivered real time every 2 hours to the outlets in Singapore. So you just imagine the logistics challenges and all that around that. But what it is really, in that specific example, is the cost savings. The cost savings are tremendous. One of the things is, if you look through the whole cost saving, first of all, it allows them to have smaller real estate in the stores in Singapore, because basically you're delivering it real time. You don't need storage. The second thing is the cost savings around having a master facility in Johor, and then all the savings of land, water, power, and labor. And of course, materials costs are also cheaper here because you're closer to the source. So that's a critical example of how a smaller company, or it's quite a large company, but still considered an SME, how they have saved money. Now, another thing is one of my clients, which is an aerospace client. Now, they're a global aerospace company called GKN Aerospace. So in 2017 or something, I remember, and I put in all their senior management except the CEO at that time, they were looking to set up a blade facilities for repairs. So this is aerospace, in either KL or Johor. They have facilities already in Seletar. This was to complement, because this is more labor intensive. So what they did was, when they were looking around, when they did their feasibility study, they found that they could set up in Johor and save 12 to 18 months, because the facilities and the infrastructure were already ready. They didn't have to build a facility. They built in an industrial park that was co-owned by UEM Land and Capital Land. And I can't remember the name of that.
Nusajaya Tech Park.
Sorry? Nusajaya Tech Park. Okay. So they saved in the end about 18 months. So those are very tangible. So you talk about history lesson, that's a very tangible example of how these investors have benefited from actually relocating in Johor Bahru.
Correct. So, I mean, bouncing off on your point earlier, I think another issue that we receive feedback from our Singaporean counterparts is access to talent. Access to talent and basically the livability element of Singapore itself. So, when we talk to them, you say, okay, you see, we have EduCity. EduCity houses about approximate 4,000 plus students from international and local universities, and within all spheres of pipelines. So we have talent, okay? And the livability element, I think the cost of living, if you compare Singapore to Johor, based on our analysis, is probably like 3 times cheaper here to live. So we are providing, because all these middle office employees or startups, they get paid in Singapore dollars. But sometimes the livability in Singapore is not, taken care of. So we will provide that option. We brought up a good example in GKN Aerospace. In fact, I don't have the details, but we do have some startups in IIB, our portfolio as well. But we do help to facilitate all this to ensure not only you work well, you live well, but you play well as well. So we want to make our city humanized in a way, you know. So again, just bouncing back to our earlier point, right? So then the history lesson continues with the transitional phase, I call it, from 2018 to 2022, which I think we all remember was the elections and the COVID-19 period. So within that period, there was a lot of fiscal tightening, so public sector capital was not available as much. So internally, IIB and I think some other companies resorted to portfolio rationalization, where we try to minimize costs and increase our returns in other investments to ensure we stay afloat during COVID especially. And then post of that period, which we successfully averted, now we are in the growth and transformational phase, I call it, 2023 onwards, via this Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone. Although the details are still, we are still a little bit privy to the details, and the details are not as exhaustive as we would like, but I can tell you behind the scenes, companies like us, as well as the state and federal government, have been working tirelessly to formulate a win-win solution for all. We're talking about industries between Singapore and Malaysia, we're talking about investors, we're also talking about the average Johorian who works in Singapore, or a Singapore businessman who has business in Johor. We want to cater to all. So I think the earlier session from our CEO, Dato' Izam and Dato' Azam, has briefly mentioned about this being cooked up, but I think the blueprint is about to be out soon. So those are the phases that I think the Iskandar Malaysia blueprint emphasizes on. Right now, the focus is execution. Like I said just now, we're not building on speculation anymore. We're building for purpose. So you see more camaraderie, you see more JVs building things that are for purpose, for values. So it's all about value creation now. And even like in between the flagship holders, like for us, Port of Tanjung Pelepas, Jacob, we are all working seamlessly with each other to ensure, because the common goal is to ensure that this JSSEZ is a success, and ultimately contributing to both federal governments of Singapore and Malaysia. It's all about uplifting the economy and livelihoods of our people. So where IIB plays a role in this, I would say we are an institutional intermediary. So as representatives of our National Sovereign Wealth Fund, Khazanah, our EPF and the state government, we play a role to ensure that whatever comes in has to be of value. It needs to benefit both companies, and at the same time, it needs to uplift the overall vibrancy and surroundings of Johor. Because at the end of the day, the city has to be livable. And for the city to be livable, it thrives on its population. So we're building it for the people. That's the core focus now for our developments.
Rajanath, I want to talk about livability because I think somehow that is something that has changed a lot. And I'm born in Johor Bahru, so I'm 55 years old, so I've seen the whole cycle of Johor. And to tell you how it's changed, if you look back, and I, for a brief period, spent I think 10 months or something in Johor in 2013 and 2014, the peak of the last boom. And I can tell you from a livability standpoint, I bought milk, fresh milk from Singapore. Why? Because we didn't have cold chain, the whole cold chain logistics. Our milk would spoil, fresh milk will spoil in JB in 2 days, even if you bought it from cold storage. Okay? Fast forward 2025 now. I live in KL, but I'm relocating next month to Johor to live permanently. The cafes in Johor Bahru are better than KL right now. There is such a buzz that is in Johor right now. The livability, so if you live in the best area in Tokyo, there's a place called East Ledang, and you will be completely, and that's a UEM Sunrise, the little plug you have to pay me, yeah? That's a UEM Sunrise development. I have family members who live there, so I can tell you that over the years. If you live in the best areas in Tokyo, you will be comfortable there. If you live in District 10, and I'm an ex-NJC boy, so if you're Singaporean, if you, any Singaporeans here? So if you live in District 10, or you're living in River Valley, you can go to East Ledang and you will be completely comfortable. Johor Bahru has changed tremendously. So that's at the top end of the market. But what about the middle end of the market? The middle end of the market is where the opportunities are for Singaporeans, not only, and here for Japanese as well. Really, it's about then affordable living. And I've had visitors to KL and JB, old friends of mine that I studied in Singapore as well as in Australia. And what we have in Johor, which is slightly cheaper than KL, is actually this. You can live very well for very little money. So that labor market arbitrage, so for you as an investor, either as an individual or an investor, there is a labor market arbitrage, there is a lifestyle arbitrage. And so even when you are, and so one of the things they are all trying to promote is global business services. Now, I interviewed on BizTech Asia last Friday, and I can tell you the name, the interview is not published yet. The CEO of Modec, which is a Japanese company, they are in oil and gas. They have 1,700 people in Singapore, and Singapore was their hub to get out of Japan many years ago, 30 years ago. They have 1,700 people in Johor, in Singapore, and they've just set up a hub in Malaysia, in KL, and they are looking at hiring 1,000 people in Malaysia. And I told him, the CEO of this, I said, you should consider Johor because your arbitrage opportunity is so simple. Just move some of your Singapore people over, whether they are Filipinos, whether they are Thais, whether they are Indian nationals and so forth. On the salaries, they have better lifestyle. So it could be really an employee-driven exercise to really then help your employees. But then at the same time, you as a company, you save costs. All the arbitrage issues are there. And so that's where people like IIB and Dato Izam and Raja Naj here can basically help you a little bit more on that.
No worries. I think, let me just share with you a personal story. I'm originally from KL. So I was given this job around 3 years ago. So when I discussed internally with my family, of course the doubts were there. Why JB? It's just like a downgrade, Why not Singapore straight away? Go a level above KL. So I wanted to challenge myself and surprise myself at the same time. So I trusted my gut. I went with it. So when I moved to Johor a few years ago, first thing that struck me was, especially the Medini area, is, I'm surprised that all these developers are here. Sunway is here, Sunrise is here, EcoWorld is here. There must be something going on, because I wasn't really aware of the progress before this. I just went to Legoland, Legoland, and went back to KL. So coming here and understanding the story behind it, the motivations behind why Legoland was built there, why Sunway came in, further ignited this fuel in me that says, you know what, I believe in this project. There is still, how do I say, there is still hope, I guess, because all the existing powerhouse developers are here. So that's why our team internally, we look back, because we are the master developer, we look back at the whole master plan and say, you know what, all these developments are all sporadic. They're all spread out, they all don't talk to each other. So we devised this reimagineering master process called Medini. So we branded the whole thing called Medini Innopolis. So we gave all these developments an identity to make sure that they are congruent and they connect to each other, because let's say from Sunway to another point there's a gap. So we can connect both those gaps, give it a story, do some value creation exercises such as JVs or raise funds, and in a way organically build and grow value of investors that say, you know what, Sunway is also gaining from this in between development. Sunrise is also gaining from it. IIB is gaining from it. So our job is to make sure all these developments talk to each other. So in order to again create value, generate sustainable recurring income and all. So with that in place, I think I'll be happy to meet any people after this if you want to talk more because of the time limit. But now there is massive potential, particularly in several areas of the market, which is MICE and leisure. Something exciting is going to be announced soon. Technology, ESG, and things revolving around the digital economy. So those are some of the initiatives that I think most companies are looking to have more skin in the game in. So we at IIB are prepared via our ecosystem building team to facilitate from pre-investment to post-investment in order to give you access to grants, talent. It can also be access to funds. So we ensure that from A to Z we are there with you and we can grow your business possibly from point 1 to point 12. I'm just plucking a number. Yeah, so that's my pitch here today. I hope to meet anyone who wants to talk more about this development here. But in a nutshell, as a person who comes from KL to be here, I haven't looked back ever since. If I want that city feel, I'll just cross to Singapore. But like Brian said, the cafes are here. Even the Japanese people that I talk to who are based here are very, very happy here. One thing why? Because of the open space. I think they keep on mentioning to me that Tokyo, Osaka is very tight. So I appreciate the open space, like our gaming development partners, Deluxe Games, they keep on saying, we can develop games better because of the atmosphere. So that's what we are trying to sell here, lifestyle, quality of life, in order to be more productive, more efficient, to deliver better. But at the end of the day, the goal is common, to create a better, thriving Johor for all of us, international and domestic. Yes.
Rajanaj, thank you. Now, could all of you, I'm sure you have burning questions for him. Please scan and on Slido, and I'll pick a couple of questions. We've got 10 minutes for questions. The floor is yours now.
Scan the QR code on your pass, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So you need to scan your QR
Scan the
code on your
code on
pass.
the pass. But if you don't want to ask me official questions on stage, I can do it off stage also.
Yeah, so just a reminder, if you want to ask a question, scan the QR code on your pass and the question and type in the question.
I think there's one question.
Go ahead.
My name is Ravi Raghupati.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
My name is Ravi Raghupati.
Hi, Raghu.
Yep. I am from DJS Corp Holdings Private Limited, Australia, and also aaibo.com.au organization, Australia Asia India Business Organization, founder. And my question, all you said everything. So what is the safety and security for the investor, businessman, whoever coming to Malaysia, Johor or KL or Penang? That's a very sensitive question, but you have a very good answer for that.
When you talk about safety and security, is more about your funds. When you talk about safety and security, I think it's two-pronged. One is you're talking about the security of your investment, right? So when you invest in, for example, let's just put an example, you invest in a plant. You put a plant here and then you have your, recurring business and all. So how do you guarantee security from that? So I think in terms of financial first, we work closely with our international trade agency, MITI, MIDA, as well as MDEC, depends on your industry, to facilitate your growth by giving you certain grants in terms of giving you that financial security. So that grants can be derived. We will facilitate your discussions with all these government bodies to ensure that whatever prerogative or commitment that you have, will meet it. That's one. And number two, because you want to build a plant, let's say on a site, let's say it's on an IIB land bank. From IIB's perspective, we can guarantee, we can work to a way where, you don't have to incur that much cost first, but we can work towards creating some conditions that, for example, your production output reaches 200% within the span of 3 years. And then that's for example, one milestone that we can do. So we can do that kind of staggered upward deal to ensure that, the first 2 years of your operations are safeguarded, and because the first 2 years are critical, right? Are safeguarded and financially strong, to ensure for that by third year onwards you can keep on sustaining that growth. But regardless, we will help you facilitate all the way up until to a point where we hope for you to grow to phase 2, for example. That's one. And second, maybe for example you want to bring international colleagues in, right? So via our IMFCJ, Invest Malaysia Facilitation Center, we do have benefits for knowledge workers. So it's a fixed percentage of tax rate, as well as facilitation of visas and so on and so forth. A case in point, our partner at Deluxe Games, we facilitated the whole process to a point where he even brought his cars from Japan to come to Johor. So we go as granular as that to help facilitate international investments to come in. But let's say if IIB is, you want to develop that plant not on IIB's land bank, we are also connected to our partners in Sunway, in UM Sunrise, all you see here today, to help facilitate discussions, again, to ensure a win-win outcome. So I think, sir, to just answer your question, the safety and security, I think, was around the first 2 years, which based on our past cases, we can help facilitate that as well.
Sir, can I add to that also? You must understand that Singapore and Malaysia were once one country. Our laws are based on British common law. Companies Act in Singapore, Companies Act in Malaysia are very similar. The protections that you legally have in Singapore are very similar in Malaysia. So I know where you're coming from in terms of, are your rights protected and all that. That's the basis of that. Our laws are very similar.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great question, because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about that.
Very good question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to ask a question? No one's doing it on Slido. Maybe we can ask put up your hand, and then
we'll
somebody
pass the
will
mic.
bring a mic to you. Let's make that easier. Does someone have a question? We've got just under 5 minutes for questions. Anyone else? Any questions? Any burning issues? Otherwise, if there isn't, Rajanach, then I leave the floor to you then for perhaps you can end this conversation with some closing points for them to ponder over.
Sure, happy to. To my fellow Nikkei delegates, investors, or people just coming here for networking, pleasure to meet all of you. I hope to build bridges with all of you via IIB. And from IIB's perspective, Medini is open, it's rising, is ready, infra ready, ready to, and at IIB we are ready to take this journey with you on the next growth phase via this JSSEZ, where hopefully your business and our business, as well as your personal prerogatives, can grow minimum threefold. So I extend this clarion call to my colleagues here. If there's any particular investment opportunities, or if you look to plant your business here in JB, do give IIB or myself a reach out. We'll talk further. For the delegates, please enjoy the rest of the forum. And if anyone has any questions like where to eat and what that, I'm also the guy. I'll give you all the good restaurants here. Happy to promote this beautiful development in Medini. And enjoy, thank you, and have a good forum for the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brian and Rajan Najmuddin. Please remain on stage for a quick photograph.